Hello and welcome back to the second part of the Football Manager 2019 experiment with me, Mr. Grantu. What would happen if Red Bull set up a new team in London? In the last part, then, we looked at how we'd set this up, and we looked at um, the new club that we'd established, which was Red Bull Westminster, which was formed when Red Bull bought the playing rights of Hampton and Richmond Borough in the Vanarama National League North. We set it up so that they had back-end sugar daddy status, more money in the coffers, and improved facilities relative to the league around them. And in the last part, Red Bull Westminster were able to, after 2 seasons, secure promotion to the Vanarama National League, and we left them off at the end of the third season, a sort of comfortably mid-table team in the Vanarama National. Now, in this part, I have gone forward first of all 3 further years. We'll see how they're getting on. Then we're going to go forward another 3 or so years, depending on how well the team are doing. We'll have a look at the financial situation and think about whether this is the best um, setup to proceed with. I'll talk more about that in a second. So the first thing to note is that long-serving manager Paul Cox has been replaced by Ryan May. Let's just have a look at the managerial situation first of all. Well, Paul Cox did leave after 4 years in charge. He left to, I believe, take over at Swindon Town. Indeed, he did, but he has then, well, he's since moved on to Torquay. That seems like a little bit of a backward step. Yeah, they're down in the Vanarama National, so he must have got sacked by Swindon. They're in League Two. I mean, that's a bit of a weird one there. But yeah, Paul Cox has moved on. He's been replaced initially by Michael Nottingham in a caretaker role, and now Ryan May, who doesn't have a face, formerly a coach at West Brom. He is in charge of Red Bull Westminster now. Well, let's see how well they're doing. And first of all, we can see if we have a look at the league history. This is where we left off. In the 2021 season, they finished 11th in the Vanarama National. Going ahead, then they did secure promotion. They finished 7th in the Vanarama National League, but they secured promotion. We'll have a look how they did that. It must have been from the playoffs um, into the Football League there. They finished 21st in their first season in Sky Bet League 2, and then 13th in their second season. So making steady progress every single year from the look of it. Let's have a look at this season first of all. Yeah, so they finished 7th, but they ended up being promoted anyway via the playoffs. Can we have a look at the playoffs? Who do they have to play? We can. So in the playoff final, they beat Crawley, formerly a Football League team, beat them 2-1 to secure a pretty jammy promotion into the Football League. 2022 to 23 season, they finished in League Two, finished to go a little bit further down. They finished in 21st place, only just avoiding relegation out of the Football League at the first attempt. They finished just 2 points clear of Port Vale, who level on points with Yeovil, went down on goal difference. Very, very harsh for them. And then in the season just gone, improvements, nothing spectacular, but improvements nevertheless. 13th place finish, pretty much slap bang mid-table for their massively increased points tally though, so that is good to see. Okay, let's have a look at some of the transfers they've been making. They've spent a little bit of money. James Montgomery coming in from Forest Green for 5.25 million, where he subsequently moved on. But again, a lot of players being signed on frees, a lot more than you'd probably see a standard AI team signing. Not really any standout names that season. This was 3 seasons ago. Not really anyone I recognise there, but a few players being sold for money. Dave Neeskins being sold for money, and then his pretty big transfer, Lee Shaw, being sold to Lincoln. He must be a regen. Indeed, he is. £130,000 coming through from their academy, a first-year regen by the looks of it, being sold for a reasonable amount of money. So previous seasons, then again a bunch more players coming in. Oliver Crankshaw, pretty decent player for this sort of level. Also spent £34,000 on J. Emmanuel Thomas, formerly of QPR. He's since been released, but pretty decent pickup for them as well. Also spent £76,000 on Billy Waters from Northampton. He's still here. Striker, looks pretty decent. Got quite a few goals by the looks of things. Simon Parks as well, coming in from Leeds, or regen, fullback, right back, played quite a few games as well. So still spending some money. Not having a massive amount of success from it though. Season just gone. Remy Matthews, formerly of Norwich, joining on a free transfer in goal. Bradley Barry coming in for money as well. Scott Wagstaff, formerly of AFC Wimbledon, also coming in too. A few signings there. Doesn't look like there's been any regen sales for much money. And this is the current summer before the next season. So Callum Dyson to Leyton Orient. Nothing else really happening so far though. Let's have a quick look at the squad. See if there's any players here that we've missed who are pretty well, we sort by valuation. We've got Billy Waters as we've seen, £110,000 value. Ollie Norburn, 85,000. So not anyone with like extremely high value, and not really anybody massively famous or established. Looks like a lot of the players they had before, Coburn, for example, have now gone. Let's have a quick look at the landmarks, see if there's been anything else. No, other cups. Right, so okay, so now there's been a couple of times. Luke Charman, that's what I'm thinking of. It looks like he's gone. Indeed, he has been released. Okay, so there's been a couple of times where the owner has withdrawn his funding. In fact, he's done it 3 times. In fact, he's just done it recently as well. I should to be completely clear, I have every time he's done that. I think it's probably just a quirk of the owner who he is. I've re-added it in as a back-end sugar daddy because I think realistically, if Red Bull were in charge of this team, then that position would not change because they're a company rather than an individual, and they're also a company with far more resources than the game thinks this individual has. So we'll keep changing that in every time he decides to take it out. Youth category has been lowered back down to a category 3, but the stadium capacity has been increased to 5,490. I think that's possibly a sort of league requirement, as they now are in the Football League, but interesting nevertheless. So the club's reputation has increased quite a lot. Not bad for this kind of level. Still reasonable amount of money in the bank, over £1 million in the bank balance, but transfer budget and wage budget are not really all there. I've put the sugar daddy status back in. Facilities, well, we've seen the youth levels gone down, but otherwise the facilities are all holding up, as are the affiliations. A bit like they haven't at any point tried to get any players on loan. I'm assuming because the reputation is still quite low, but you would think maybe there'd be 1 or 2 players that these clubs would be willing to let on loan. I don't know what would happen if I set them up to have the same board. That's a potential thing we can look at. I've tried researching this and just sort of seeing about how the other Red Bull clubs, particularly Red Bull Leipzig, have operated. And from what I can tell, on the last few editions of Football Manager, right back to FM19 when they were still in the 3rd division of Germany, at no point have Red Bull Leipzig ever had any level of sugar daddy other than an underwriter, which means that it's difficult to necessarily simulate the way that the club has operated. I've still got it as a back end sugar daddy because I want the owner to actually invest money, but it doesn't really look like he's investing that much money in comparison to other clubs around them. So what we could do, we could change it to a front end sugar daddy until the club gets into the championship at least, and see how that works out. But I don't want to do that yet. I think that's something that I'll try to do if this if using a back end sugar daddy doesn't result in any success. What I am going to do though is I am going to pretend to be Red Bull under Dietrich Mateschitz or whoever's still in charge. I don't know. We're just going to literally invest some cash because despite being a back end sugar daddy, the owner that the game currently has in charge of the club simply just doesn't do anything. So I'm not going to go super crazy, but I am going to put in a good 5 million into the bank balance, and then we're going to put in, I think, £2 million into the transfer budget. Oh no, let's go crazy, £3 million into the transfer budget. There we are. And then we better increase the wage budget as well. Put an extra £100,000 in the wage budget. We'll see if it's going to do anything, because I think the club is making progress, but very, 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 very slowly. And the fact that every season I have to keep adding in the restoring the sugar daddy status to a back end sugar daddy because he just doesn't want to do it. I think we need to give the game a little bit of a kick, because the guy that's in charge clearly is not willing to actually be a sugar daddy, even if he's required to by the game. So what we're going to do then, we're going to go forwards another uh, 3, 4 years. I'm going to be checking each season to check that he's still a sugar daddy. I might invest a little bit more money. We shall see. Um, I do think that's something Red Bull would realistically do, but we will see what happens. I'll see you in a bit and see how far the club has gone. Well, we've gone forward another 3 years, and this is where we left off last time. Red Bull Westminster were progressing very, very slowly through the divisions. They finished 13th in League Two. Um, they, improved season on season, but nothing really massive, and the squad wasn't particularly amazing. Still haven't really taken advantage of their affiliate relationships. Well, let's see what's happened in the following 3 years. So next season, we invested, of course, a little bit more money, and well, it's paid off. They did get promoted from League Two, finishing second, just 3 points off Swindon, who won the league. Uh, very, very impressive. We've got 2 more years after this, so let's see how well they did in League One. Well, this was their first season in League One, and they haven't been promoted. And in fact, if we go right down, you can see that they did indeed get relegated straight back down, finished bottom of the table, just 35 points, a relegation straight back down. Not really what you would hope to see. We have a look at the schedule for that season then. I mean, wow, just defeat after defeat after defeat after defeat. Huge number of defeats, so few wins. They managed to beat Swindon, who finished above them in the league the previous year, but yeah, not a good season by any means. Let's have a look and see what happened in the final season of the experiment that we've done so far. Back down in League One, did they get themselves promoted back up again? Just not looking particularly good so far. Lots and lots of defeats. A few more wins towards the end. They might have made a late charge. Indeed, they did. They made a late charge for the playoffs, but they lost in the semi-final on aggregate to Rochdale. They beat them in the home leg, but they lost 2-0 away, so they went out 2-1 on aggregate and ended up finishing the season staying in League Two. Let's just have a look at the table. So they did indeed finish fifth in that League Two season just gone. Didn't get promoted, and it's going to be another season in League Two. Well, let's have a look at some of the other stuff. Landmarks. The owner has again withdrawn his funding. He withdraws his funding every year. I just think it's not the owner that the game has given the club is not. He doesn't want to be a sugar daddy, no matter how many times you tell him he is. We might have to do something about that, because I don't think it's really helping. The youth category's gone up and down repeatedly. Otherwise, nothing else has particularly happened. We'll have a look at the transfer, see if there's any sort of value um, over the last 3 years. So quite a few players going out for some reasonable money. These must be regens. Craig Barnes has gone to Hull for £185,000. How good is he? Okay, 118 potential ability, so not that good at all. Hull have kind of wasted some money there. What about this man, Aaron Lloyd? Potentially rising to just under £900,000. He's gone to Reading. He's on loan at Gillingham. 116 potential ability. So again, they're getting quite a lot of money for regens that aren't particularly good. But yeah, no value coming into the team. Just players on frees. Not really anyone particularly heard of. Bobby Duncan, formerly of Man City and Liverpool's academies, I believe. Aaron Armstrong, he's a regen. Previous season, they did spend quite a bit of money here. This man came. I'm not going to say his name. He came from he formerly of Norwich. They signed him from Sutton. A few other players coming in. No, again, no one I've really heard of. It's probably going to be mostly regens at this point. They sold Billy Waters, who we saw a while ago. He's gone to TNS for 52,000, and they sold Remy Matthews to Brighton as well. So losing some of their better players, not going to help. That was the year they got relegated, of course. Previous season, they did spend quite a lot of money. This was the year I gave them some money. Craig Brown coming in for 275,000, David O'Donnell coming in for 105,000, Johnny Byrne as well coming in. So a few players there, but it didn't help, and they ended up getting relegated, and they haven't been promoted again. Let's have a quick look at the squad, sort by value. Bobby Duncan the highest value, but that is about it. Okay, so I think this experiment has it's kind of stagnated really. They're not really making the progress that they perhaps would. I don't think that the game is effectively replicating things, and as we can see here, the money's kind of run out. I don't know why they're not using the facility, using the loans at all. I think that's a bit of an issue. It's hard to sort of force that one. In fact, their training facilities have gone down a bit. So I think what we're going to do, we've tried two parts of this. For the next part, that's what we're going to do. I think if this was Red Bull, if it were really Red Bull, they would invest quite a bit more money because clearly the club is not doing particularly well. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to improve the facilities just a little bit. I think that's something that Red Bull would seek to invest in. Put them all up to 14. And then I think finances. Well, I think clearly having a back end sugar daddy has worked to an extent. The club's gone up from the Vanarama North, and it did get up to League One, but it wasn't able to sustain it. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to put into a front end sugar daddy, investing significant amounts of money until the club gets into the Premier League, and then it will go down completely to an underwriter. We'll have to survive like that. So time to invest some money into the bank balance. I'm just going to go full on £30 million of investment. Okay, let's not embarrass myself. Check that is actually 30 million. There you go, 30 million pounds of investment. I'm going to put the transfer budget as 5 million. And then we're going to put the wage budget as £243,000. Hopefully then that will sort of kick-start the club a little bit. So we've boosted the finances considerably. We've changed the sugar daddy ownership type. It'll be interesting to see what happens, but that's what we're going to have to see in the next part, what will be the final part, and then we might move on to look at some other experiments as well. So thank you very much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel as well for future experiments and future playthroughs as well, and I will see you next time.